What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I'm Sam, your show host. Join you guys once again. Thanks for tuning in. Back on here, we've had a few weeks off, and I apologize for that. I know we try to bring you guys a new episode every Monday morning. But it's that time of year where things are a little crazy. We're bouncing all over the place between hunting and home and work and everything else we got going on. And it's just been a few rough weeks to try and fill a podcast schedule, but we're happy to be back on here. I appreciate you guys hanging out and waiting for a new episode to drop. And I am happy to say that we are stacking some episodes up, and throughout the remainder of the year, we should be very consistent with that weekly publication that we always try to bring you guys. So this episode that we have this week to kick things back off, we are actually in deer camp. It's going to sound a little different. That's why, because we're running with the old school equipment in camp with my dad, and we're talking about kind of some of the lessons that we've learned down here in Texas this year so far. It's not the repetitive Texas Dirt podcast that you guys might think of. We are learning a lot this year from our property and our deer, some lessons and some stuff that we haven't really thought about before. And my dad and I kind of dive into that for a good conversation this episode. So I'm looking forward to you guys getting to hear it. But before we get to that, got to knock out some shout outs to some of our podcast partners. The first one being a new partner of the podcast, and that is Hoot Camo. I am super excited to be announcing our partnership with the guys over there at Hoot. They are a Texas-based company, but they have camo and patterns that work for everywhere across North America. They've been testing their camo from Texas to Montana and everywhere in between. Really high-quality products, and the guys over there are blue-collar guys and very down-to-earth. We've really enjoyed beginning our relationship with them and getting to know them. So definitely go check out Hoot Camo. I think the website is hunthoot.com, and see what they got. And we'll have some discount codes coming for y'all in the near future, our followers, so that you guys can get a few dollars off. But they're an awesome company. Their products are very high quality, and then what's really attractive to us is they pride themselves on keeping that blue collar bloodline running strong through their gear and their products. They want the quality to match that of the industry leaders, but they don't want you to have to pay that price. So when you guys go on there, you'll see the difference in the cost between your typical name brands and these guys. So another thing that really drew us into them and really lined up with kind of what we're trying to do here at Fall Obsession and what they're trying to do over there. So Hoot Camo, go check them out and follow them on social media. The podcast is also brought to you guys by Ridge Rock Hunt Company. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi. They book hunts with vetted outfitters across the country in tons of different states, tons of different locations, all different sorts of species. So if you're looking for that next adventure, that next dream hunt, if you will, give Derek a call. He'll work with you on timeline, location, licensing, pricing, whole 9 yards. He'll help you get set up, and he guarantees a good experience. All of his outfitters are vetted by him personally or somebody that he truly trusts, so he doesn't set anybody up with just Joe Blow outfitter out there. So Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check them out. Finally, the Outdoor Call radio app is another partner of the podcast. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he has created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop 24/7, 365. You'll catch Fall Obsession podcast episodes airing on there on that loop on Mondays, and as well as tons of other shows throughout the week. He also does a couple of live shows on Wednesdays and Saturdays on various local networks, and you can also catch those broadcasts on Facebook Live. But the app is free. Go download it, the Outdoor Call radio app, and start streaming today. All right, that's all I got for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. You're listening to another Fall Obsession podcast episode.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another Fall Obsession podcast. Happy to have you guys back with us. We've been gone a few weeks, and that's because it is hunting season, and this is the most... While this is the time of year where we have the most relevant content to podcast about, it's also the time of year where it's the hardest to get in front of a mic and podcast. But if you guys notice it sounds a little different, that's because we're running back old school with some bare bones equipment today, and we're sitting here in deer camp, me and my dad, Mark. Welcome back to the podcast, Dad.
Thanks, son. Hello, people.
So we're here on Texas Dirt. Season 3 of Texas Dirt just premiered on Carbon TV and on YouTube. Go check that out if you guys haven't yet. But we're looking at our 3rd year on this property, a property that we started with just bare bones, nothing out here. Just ground zero basically. And now we're coming into the 3rd year, and I know in the video series one observation that I made was when we were filming our first episode, which was my first trip out here. I spent the whole day filling our existing feeders and working on all of our existing stuff, and throughout the day I just felt like I was going through the motions again. I was doing the same thing over and over again. But then I get to the end of the day, and I made the observation on the video as well, it's in the episode, that in 6 hours, I had taken everything back to the maximum, the top of where we had it after 2 years. And everything from that point was just going to be more. It was going to be improvement. It was going to be additional. And so that was kind of encouraging, at least for me, starting into this season, was knowing that we're continuing to make progress. We made a lot of progress last year, and I feel like our progress this year is notable as well. Maybe not so much in physical setups, but just understanding the property more, the deer more, and how we hunt them, I guess you could say. So I don't know what your outlook is on any of it, or because I know I've been hunting a little bit in bow season, but you've been out here for a decent chunk of time since rifle opened up. So.
Well, I hunted about a week, so yeah, but it was hot. So
yeah, it was.
The deer, it was 88, almost 90 degrees. The deer weren't moving, so they turned nocturnal again, and no daylighting of the bucks. So I didn't see hardly anything. But
you knocked down a doe, though.
Yeah, knocked down a doe. But like I told you, sometimes I'm profoundly dumb. I've been hunting Texas for 2 decades.
Yeah. I
know the antler restrictions. And I'm watching a nice cow horn walk in on me, and I'm thinking, I can't shoot that deer because it's, it's got 2 horns. And I'm thinking, after I watched it 20 minutes and walk away, and then I saw that doe earlier, so she came back out and, knocked her down. But it's like, I could have shot that cow horn.
Yeah.
So if I see him again, that'd be my small buck for the year, because he's a call buck and needs to get out of the herd, so.
Well, I know one thing at least Nick and I have noticed from having the cellular cameras running and getting pictures in and everything is this year for sure. I've been very impressed so far from what we're seeing on camera with the quality of mature bucks that we have on this property this year. I feel like we started out really good. Year 1, we had some nice bucks out here, but we were also very limited. We only had a couple setups out here.
Right.
So there was a lot of the property that we had no idea what was going on. We had no idea what was out there. Year 2, we do have an idea, but with whether you attribute that to the drought we had in 2022 or whatever it might have been, we get to year 2 and it felt like we regressed. We went backwards, and the best buck we had was 120-inch 8-point or something like that, and this year it feels like we turned it up to 10 with what we're seeing.
I think we think about it. We had year 2, we had all those 8-point bucks.
Right.
It's like we had all 8 points, maybe a 10 here and there, or maybe the 7 you saw, but most of them were all 8, and weren't seeing anything larger. We're mostly seeing bucks. That was about it.
Right.
Now we see does. We had pictures on the camp stand we looked at last week, and that's a girl stand.
Yeah.
All those does. So I'm glad to see that. The mixture of that, and like you said, we're seeing a lot bigger bucks. You said coming out of your stand the other night, you hunted the blind stand. I had Wyatt with me, your son, my grandson, and we were sitting in a stand together, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And but you were hunting your ground blind, and you said you came out, and remember you said you stepped out of your blind.
Yeah, hunted there the evening, didn't see anything, and I didn't really know what to expect because that stand this year, for whatever reason, has just been the worst luck with trail cameras. We had a cell cam out there that we've had out there the past 2 seasons. This is the original stand for me out here bow hunting, the OG Texas dirt stand, if you guys watched the video series. But anyway, we had the cell cam out there and it pooped out I guess toward the end of last year is when it went out. So just going back on what I had on hand, I took one of my older card pull cameras that's not a cell cam and I put it out there so I still know what's going on. And then it pooped out on me and it died. And it's an even older camera, so it's like, golly, can I not catch a break? So Nick, he had shuffled some cameras around, and that's I'll save that for when we have him on the podcast to talk about what he's doing with all that. But needless to say, he finally had a cell cam that he brought out there for us to put on the place. So we weren't blind, but that same day that you're talking about right now, that was the day I put it out. So for the past 2-3 weeks before that, from the time that card pull pooped out, I'd been blind out there. I didn't know what was coming in really since the beginning of bow season. And I hadn't hunted that stand yet because the wind was wrong all season until that particular day. So I sat there all hunt, didn't see anything. Legal light came and went, so I'm packing up, I'm getting out of the blind. I said it's kind of tucked in the brush, so it's easier just when you're unloading just to take your chair and your backpack and set them out the window out front and then go out and walk around. So I set everything out, I walk around, I pick all my stuff up, and as I'm standing up to leave, I look, and across the feeder pen on the other side, I can see it. There's a deer stand there, and instantly I knew it was a buck. Just you see the body size, just the silhouette in the dark.
How far?
40. No, the feeder's 20. They're about 30 yards.
Okay.
So just standing there staring at me, and I'm like, that's a buck. And so I'm shuffling around, I'm getting my binos out of my bino harness because it's past legal light. I can't shoot the deer, but there's still enough light that my binoculars should be able to pick him up. Put my binoculars up, and it's just a stud of a deer. He's wide, very, very wide, and tall G2s. And knowing what I know now, there's no way to know for sure, but I would venture to say it was probably the 8-point that I'm trying to kill right now, down in that same bottom, that same area, just because of how wide that deer, both those deer that I'm seeing are. I imagine they're the same deer.
Is that the one you saw today in
Yes.
the road?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very big buck. But, I mean, that's just, and that was kind of the cool thing is the excitement, right? Because I told Nick, I was actually texting him early in the hunt, was like, man, I'm blind down here, but it's kind of exciting. Like, a giant could walk out any time, and I would have no idea that he was even in the area. It'd be a new experience for me. No anticipation, just boom, there he is. Which is kind of what happened, just unfortunately about 5 minutes too late. But still, it's cool because we have that deer down there, the big 8, and then we have the buck that Nick has named Palmetto, is what Nick calls him, is this big, heavy 10-point that's now roaming up here close to camp, close to where we are right now. Nick's been hunting. He hunted that deer hard during bow season, and I'll save the details of that for him to tell on here because I still need to get him on the podcast to talk about his season so far. But he hunted that deer hard in the month of October during bow season, and then the buck disappeared, and we were worried that he was on a different property or been shot by somebody else. And then the stand he was hunting primarily is farther south of here, but now all of a sudden the couple stands we have north up here close to camp, they started picking up pictures of this buck like within the past couple of weeks from now. So it's been kind of cool to see his range, his home range shift to the north a little bit. And he, at the time, he kind of bachelored up with this other shooter buck. So there was 2 of them that were traveling together that were similar in size. And I'm not talking about a 135-inch deer. This buck is in the 150s that we're talking about. This is the biggest deer we've ever seen on Texas dirt. So Nick and I are excited. Like, we text almost every day about this deer and how are we going to kill him, what are we going to do, what stand do we need to be in, and we're just hoping that one of us gets the chance to put an arrow in him. And given the stands that he's been rotating between, and us just being able to hopefully get out here and get it done, hopefully one of us has the chance to draw back on him. I know I'm hunting in the morning a stand that he has frequented in the past, so hoping that he might venture that way.
Well, it's kind of like an article that you had on your website about being proactive with deer. You can plug that article, but are you reactive or proactive? So
right.
I think we just, instead of saying, oh, he'll be here or here, just hunt your stand and the luck of the draw.
And that's the thing, like, and I know in recent podcasts and stuff that I've had with my friend Johnny Mac, he's been on our podcast a couple times. I've been on his podcast once. But Johnny Mac's new to hunting Texas, so I've been trying to educate him on just hunting whitetails down here because it's a new experience for him. It's his first year to ever do it. And me doing that, I'm also revisiting my own tactics and how I have done things, how I should be doing things. And that article that you're talking about, it put some stuff, I don't know, it kind of made me think about some stuff. It's called Choosing the Right Stand, I think is what it's titled, on fallobsession.com. It's written by one of our field staffers, Ryan Reading. He lives up in New York, and that's where he hunts, local up there in New York. But in this article, one thing that stuck with me that he talked about was bucks that roam and that go from, like what this deer's doing, that go from location to location, and you're watching him move around your property, but it comes across as random. Like we interpret it as random, like, well, he's there one day and he's over there the next, and then who knows where he is for a week and all that kind of stuff. And Ryan talked about how you kill randomness with consistency. And that phrase, that term really stuck with me. And I'm thinking, well, that's what I need to do. I need to just get in this camp stand, this tree stand up here, and hunker down every hunt. Doesn't matter what I see, but eventually he's going to be back there. And that, where I bring in Johnny Mac with that too, is that I've been talking to him about not over hunting areas. And so that's what I go back to in my mind is, well, am I over hunting it now if I'm trying to kill this buck with consistency? And an argument can be made for both, in my opinion. I think it depends on what your intentions are. I think it depends on, what your weather and your wind's doing and everything. Because if you're going to kill a big deer like this, everything's got to be right. You can't just try to wing it and hope that it works. Like, maybe I do need to be in this stand every single hunt, every morning, every evening to kill this buck. But if the wind is wrong, then I don't need to be in that stand, because if that buck does come out, I'm going to blow him out of there because he's going to win me. Right. So there's other elements where you talk about over hunting an area. I think of over hunting as just you're being there just to be there because you want to be there, whether it's right or wrong. And that's what you still have to avoid, even though you're trying to kill that randomness with consistency, like you mentioned. So, but yeah, that article stuck with me. I like that one. It's on fallobsession.com if anybody wants to go read it. It's a really good one. But and that's the other battle that I've been fighting now, is because we have this buck up here, and like coming out here for this trip, knowing I was coming out for these 3 days, I'm like, camp stand every hunt, every single hunt. That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to kill this buck. And then, what was it? A day before I leave, that 8-point shows up down there on the other ladder. And I'm like, that's a stud. Yeah. That's a huge deer.
Yeah, it is.
And so now I have 2 shooter bucks that are frequent in certain areas, but not consistent to the point of, he's there every evening at 5 o'clock. So how do I hunt 2 stands to kill that randomness with consistency? I can't. And that goes back to, like, this afternoon when you got here, I was debating which stand am I going to hunt, because if I hunt down there, but then he shows up here, I'm going to be kicking myself. But if I hunt down there, am I behind this deer because he's already showed up down there? And all these things are now going through my mind, and that's just, we've never had that out here before, I guess.
Well, and then particularly we're starting to rut.
Right.
So the buck you saw today on the road was chasing a doe. So Add that to the randomness of it all, so to speak.
Right.
The inconsistency. They're inconsistent, just chasing the girls, you know. So.
Well, and that's like I talked to you earlier today. We've been watching these deer pre-rut making their rounds, but you're right. Now we're seeing bucks chasing. Now the rut's starting to come in. So now the strategy. Yes, you can hunt certain areas for certain deer. Like if I hunt up here, I know the bucks that are in this area. If I go down south, I know that 8-point is in that area.
Right.
But what I'm hunting as far as the stand locations is I'm hunting the does. Not necessarily to kill a doe, but I'm hunting where the does frequent, because even though the bucks are chasing, what's still consistent out here in Texas is the does. They have their pattern. They have their routine. You and I have both seen it out here.
Right.
When was it? This morning, when my feeder didn't go off like it was supposed to, there were 2 deer standing there waiting for it to do so, both does.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to take advantage of is right now, at least for this week and into next week probably. If you're hunting where the does are going to be, chances are there's going to be a buck behind them. And that's what Nick and I have seen out here, you know, because, yeah, I sat there, feeder didn't go off, those 2 showed up, but what came in behind them? A little 8-point, a buck. So that's what we're trying. We're trying to play that gamble, if you will, and, you know, I don't know, kind of roll the dice and see what bucks coming in behind them at this point is what we're trying to do. But
we are seeing bigger bucks that we haven't seen before ever out here. And I know we started feeding protein, last year?
We started feeding last year, and I think that probably had...
It has a little bit of effect.
It had a little bit to do, but not for the jump. Like, these deer came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's a huge jump to go to, you know, put a deer out there that's as mature and as big as like this palmetto buck that Nick has seen up here, and that's now on the camp stand too.
So go for 130 to 150 class.
Right, exactly.
You don't do that in 1 year with protein.
Yeah, protein's a process. Like the deer that we have started feeding this protein to, and that we're working toward it. They are deer that we're going to be hunting. Like in a couple years.
Yeah.
Starting, you know, and from that point out. Yes, it's going to have benefits to the bucks that were already on the ground that are eating it, but the deer who are starting from ground zero with that stuff are the deer that we're really going to see the results in. And that's part of playing the long game out here. Mm-hmm. So, but...
Yeah, well, we don't know where these big bucks are coming from. We just know we're seeing more girls we ever saw before, too.
More does. I mean, just... higher deer numbers than we ever have before, which part of that too, I mean, it comes to also having more locations than we've ever had before at the same time. Right. But yeah, and you know, giving them a reason to stick around. And then also I think this camp stand, you know, you found that spot, and that was one of the best calls I think that we've made out here, is putting a stand in there, because I mean the observation we made year 1 and year 2, almost every time we left camp was, well, there's a deer right there. So what did we do? We went and put a stand 300 yards from camp, and guess what? There's deer on it almost every day.
Right.
So you can walk to it from the campground, and that's what I'm going to do in the morning. But it's
well, and looking forward to, son. I'm also thinking. I'm thinking of a conversation you had on podcast with Chad Jones, and he talked about putting stands and mock scrapes, but putting stands off of feeders about 30, 40 yards. He says that's where you kill a big deer. So that would be something futuristically that we might look at, is to back off some of the feeders and some of the stand locations and put a second stand location further back in the brush or in the woods.
Yeah, there's definitely ways that we can strategize off of what we have to incorporate more things like those mock scrapes, and try to tailor our setups more toward not just deer period, but toward the bucks. Because I honestly, I think if we took full advantage this last year of running mock scrapes this year to their full potential, all 3 of us probably already would have shot a buck this year, if I'm being honest. And so that's just something that we're going to have to look toward, going more into the rest of this year, or year 4, is, again, it's it's a journey, it's an adventure. There's no end goal or end destination. It's just a process, and we're adding something, changing something every year. Sometimes during the year, and that's just part of it. You find what works and what doesn't work. So,
right.
But no, and that, I mean, that 8-point down there that was pretty cool today. I mean, I would have much rather have seen him during my hunt for sure, but I mean, driving down there at 1:30 in the afternoon, and he's chasing. There's my target buck chasing a doe on the road in front of me. I'm still driving. And I was excited because I was like, that's my buck. Like, I got to see him with my own 2 eyes. That's the buck I want to shoot right there, but that's the buck I want to shoot, and he's running that way.
Well, it's the randomness, so you don't know where he's going to turn up with that doe, chasing that doe. So.
I know, and that was my thought. Because I stopped the truck when I saw him, and I was like, what should I do? Should I try to do something other than what my current plan is? And it's like, no, just stick with the plan, hunt your stand, see if he comes in. He's done it before. He'll do it again at some point. So.
And today we had crappy weather for the people listening. Just not good weather and rain, and I mean someone come driving through the property that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, we had to deal with a trespasser today. So
6 laps around in front of you.
Some people just don't have much sense about them. So no, it was just an altogether not a great day or great evening, I guess, because I knew it was going to sprinkle on me and rain a little bit, but I didn't know it was going to just keep on raining, because I hadn't really looked at the weather at all since I got out here. I looked at it before I left, and I saw there was a small chance of a sprinkle, around 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon. I was like, okay, yeah, no big deal. If it sprinkles on me in the stand, it's fine. And sure enough, it started sprinkling. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's going to rain. And then it kept going and kept going and kept going. So finally I looked it up. I was like, oh, it's not going to stop. Yeah. Okay, I'm wet now.
And then you got a guy driving in front of you with no sense.
Yeah, so. A guy, quote unquote, looking for his dog. I made 5 laps, 100 yards from my stand, and finally had to get out and go address that situation. So yeah.
And there wasn't much move. I mean, I guess a good night to do that. It wasn't much moving. I know I sat in my stand and nothing moved, and I thought I was starting to get a little wet, and I'm thinking, it's time to get out of the stand. It's not quite in the shooting light, but nothing's moving at all.
It's funny that we're talking about this right now, because my watch just went off, and that 8-point just walked up to my ladder stand. My cell cam just sent me a picture.
What time is it?
It's 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'm pulling it up right now because I want to see this. Yep, there he is right there.
Well, he's showing up. Wow. Yep. A nice deer.
So, he's in the area. He's roaming, and 3 days ago he slipped up and put on a show in front of the camera at 5 in the afternoon, and it's only a matter of time before he does that again. But again, I'm trying to play the game and figure out, back to that article too, trying to be proactive and not reactive, because reactive would be like, oh, he's there, I'm going to go back down there and hunt in the morning.
Right.
But the proactive side is knowing that, well, the past 2 weeks of trail cam history I have shows that the bucks are more active on the south side in the evening, and the bucks are more active on the north side in the morning. So tomorrow morning I'm going to be up here in the camp stand on the north end, because these giants that we're talking about, palmetto and stuff, we only have pictures of them in the morning. We don't have any evening pictures of them. I have him cruising middle of the day at like 2 o'clock one time, and everything else is morning on both me and Nick's setups. So I'm going to try to be proactive, knowing that information, even though I could react and go sit down there hoping that 8-point wanders out. That 8-point only moves in the afternoon. Right. Or at least in that, I have pictures of him in the afternoon. So
right.
I don't know. It's the science of knowing your deer and studying your deer, and this is what they talk about, Yeah, it can be a crapshoot, and people talk about how you're just, sometimes people talk about how you're just shooting fish in a barrel even,
Right.
It's just, you know, you just go out there and shoot whatever walks out. Well, if you care about deer management, no, that's not the case. You don't just shoot the first brown thing that walks out.
And it doesn't just walk out, you know. It just
Exactly. And I mean, there are people who, I don't want to say don't care, but this type of hunting or being this involved or detailed with it isn't their style, so to speak.
right.
They want to go out there and hunt just to hunt, and that's fine. And I have no problem with that. That's just not how we roll. We roll with the science to it, and I don't know.
Management.
Yeah.
Principles.
I mean, there's people who don't run trail cams and just go sit in their box blind because that's their box blind, you know, and didn't see anything today, or yep, saw a buck today. And no, I have all this intel, and I'm trying to make an educated decision and hopefully kill a buck because of it. So, but what else you got rolling into season 3? Hopefully tomorrow morning's better.
Well, I hope so. I'm want to fill my tags. Obviously, the freezer emptied out last week. So,
Yeah.
your mom and my wife used the last, you know, backstrap a couple nights ago. So we're, you know, and thankfully I killed a deer last week, and the processor texted me today and said it's ready to go. So
Yep.
I'll be able to go back this week and take one back.
Yeah, you'll be going back with backstrap at least. So.
But I think first of all, thanks you did a lot of the work. I know you said it took 6 hours, but you're out here several times filling feeders and doing this and doing that. I know I was so busy with my work, I couldn't get out here except one day. You and I came out here, to work one day.
Yeah, put that camp stand up.
Yeah, but I appreciate you doing the work. But I'd like to be able to get a food plot in here, but this wasn't again the year to do that.
Yeah.
There's so many factors in that, the elements, the nature. Nature. We had drought this year, big time, June and July, and I know we live in a small community outside the big metroplex, and they were telling us that we had a month of no outdoor water usage because the drought was so severe. So, to put a food plot in, we would have. We've been a waste of money, and then of course then we had 9 inches of rain in 1 week. Catching up with it all.
Yeah, I mean that's the flip flop, right? We talked about there being a drought in 2022, but the drought this year was just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost one of our. It's got water in it now because 9 inches in however many days you just said, but
a week, yeah.
The one of our tanks completely dried up out here. And that's the other thing, is there's no any sort of water, we have to bring it in. And not saying that we can't figure out a way to do that, but obviously the easiest thing is for Mother Nature to do it for you. And when it's 110 degrees out here every single day for months, nothing's going to grow.
Yeah.
The stuff that lives out here didn't grow.
You're right. In August, the average high temperature was 105.
Yeah.
And I know that because I work outside, so I keep track of the temperatures and.
Every time I came out here, and I would always look at my truck and look at what my thermometer was saying, and I always send a picture of it every time to Todd too, up in Michigan, because he came down not this past July, but the July before, and hunted hogs with me in 100+ degree temps down here and killed a hog. But I always send him pictures during the summer whenever we're out here, or of the thermostat, hey, we're out here working in 108 today or whatever it is. So,
and are we seeing more hogs this year, you think, or not?
I'm not seeing as many as I saw last year on the camera. They're mostly on the south side still. I feel like that's where they like to hang out. We still got this one lone boar up here on Rocky Top that won't go away.
Right.
He needs to be shot. Your stand sees some every now and then.
I haven't seen it this year.
Yeah, there's a spotted one that daylights, but the rest of them are they're nocturnal. And that's the thing, most of the pigs out here, it seems like right now, they're nocturnal. I don't get a whole lot of daytime pictures of any of them. So, But definitely not the numbers we had year one. I feel like it's just a gradual decline, and which for some people, some people like coming out here and shooting hogs, and I know there's some people I want to get out here to come shoot some hogs and everything, but from a land management aspect, I'm not complaining about it, because as we've talked about before, hogs are destructive and just absolute terrors sometimes if you have too many of them. So I'd rather have not very many than too many. So yeah, but well, I appreciate you sitting down and talking a little deer hunting and deer camp.
Sure. Good to hang out with you in deer camp.
Oh yeah, always.
Good. I thought we'd do this last week and have Wyatt on, new member of the podcast one day.
Yeah, he needs a little bit more time.
He's 5.
Another year or two, he might be able to make a guest appearance for the first time. But all right, guys. Well, thank you all for listening to us talk. Hope you guys felt like you were sitting here in camp with us. And we're going to be back with you. We got a lot of good content coming up. I know we've been a little spotty on our podcast schedule here lately. As I said at the beginning, even though there's plenty going on right now, it is one of the toughest times to actually fill a schedule, it seems like, just because we're all over the place and trying to hunt and do everything. But coming up, I got some staff members that have killed some deer this year with some awesome stories that we're going to get on the podcast. And then here in a couple weeks, I'm going to be going up to Colorado with Mike Teepee and Tim Burgess on a mule deer hunt up there. And you guys can expect a couple, 2-3 episodes coming off of that hunt as well. Hopefully the last one being a success story. So, but we'll talk about a lot of stuff all the same. But thank you guys for listening. Hit up all the socials. You guys know the drill. And be sure that you keep following, keep subscribing. Go watch Texas Dirt on Carbon TV and check out Season 3. But thank you all for listening, and I will catch you guys next time.